Part 6. Applying non-self in personal life. In daily life, we are often caught up in arguments, misunderstandings, and ego. These conflicts not only create tension in relationships, but also harm the mind and spirit. Understanding the nature of non-self allows us to see that hurt does not strike the true self, because the true self does not exist independently. This reduces ego-driven reactions and, in turn, team dynamics improved significantly. In Asia, another story tells of Hiroshi, a high school teacher in Tokyo. He had been deeply hurt when students criticized his teaching methods. Instead of reacting out of ego, Hiroshi applied the principle of non-self, seeing the feedback not as a personal attack, but as objective information. This allowed him to learn and improve without feeling offended, maintaining respectful relationships with his students. In family relationships, non-self also plays a crucial role. When conflicts arise, defending the self often damages long-term emotional bonds. But recognizing that everyone operates according to their own beliefs and experiences reduces attachment to ego. Parents applying non-self in raising children respond with less anger, listen more, and guide calmly, creating a more harmonious family environment. Understanding that the self is not fixed and that others' actions are not aimed at our true self allows anger and resentment to dissipate. Modern psychology research links reduced attachment to the self with better mental health, lower stress, and stronger relationships. Moreover, non-self enhances listening and empathy. When we stop defending the self, we can truly hear what others are saying, understand their needs and emotions without being clouded by personal bias. In international work environments, this skill fosters team harmony, boosts productivity, and creates a cooperative rather than competitive culture. In daily practice, non-self is cultivated through mindfulness of the breath, observing emotions without clinging, and reminding oneself that all phenomena are impermanent and do not belong to a fixed self. Whenever anger, ego, or fear arises, one can pause, recognize the feeling, and respond with compassion instead of reacting impulsively. In short, applying the principle of non-self helps us recognize and reduce ego, resolve personal conflicts calmly, increase forgiveness and empathy, and build sustainable relationships in family, work, and society. In today's pressured and competitive world, non-self is an inner strength, a spiritual power that allows people not only to live peacefully, but also to develop deeply, humanely, and harmoniously. 6.2. Similarly, in a marital relationship, humility reduces the need to dominate or impose opinions. Recognizing that one does not always have to win a debate allows partners to yield, empathize, and seek common solutions. This approach is not weakness, but wisdom in communication, enabling the family to overcome challenges without letting competitiveness damage emotional bonds. In international contexts, modern families in Western or Asian cities face similar challenges. Olivia, living in New York, often argued with her son about study habits and time management. Previously, she tried to assert her correctness, which led to conflict and distance. After learning about humility and practicing mindfulness, Olivia changed her approach. She listened, and everyone was more willing to listen and respect one another. Humility also helps us realize that family conflicts should not be seen as personal battles, but as opportunities to cultivate love, patience, and empathy. Rather than proving the self right, each member learns to adjust expectations, reduce attachment to status or authority within the family. This shift eases stress. Humility allows them to acknowledge, learn, and correct without excessive denial or justification. This attitude spreads, encouraging others to be open, reducing tension and competitiveness. In everyday life, practicing humility in the family does not require major changes. Simple actions like yielding, listening, refraining from impulsive reactions. Humility in the family is not just about letting go of competitiveness. It is the development of wisdom in communication, fostering compassion, empathy, and a harmonious living environment. It lays the foundation for sustainable relationships where love and understanding take precedence over personal victories. 6.3. Friendship and love. Letting go of the ego to truly understand each other. In the modern world, Close relationships, such as friendships and romantic partnerships, are constantly challenged by personal ego, disappointment, or even separation. Buddhism reminds us that understanding and practicing the principle of non-self, along with humility, is key to creating deep understanding and genuine connection between people. In friendships, letting go of the ego helps one listen without judgment, share without expecting reciprocation, and forgive without needing to prove oneself right. Emma, a young woman living in London, had lost many friends because she always wanted everything to go her way. When she began practicing humility and recognizing that everyone has their own path, she learned to listen, respect her friends' opinions, and yield when necessary. As a result, her relationships became stronger and deeper, and she experienced peace in no longer being bound by her ego. In romantic relationships, letting go of the ego is even more important. When two people constantly compete for dominance, try to prove themselves right, or place personal interests above their partner, love is easily strained. Michael and Sophia, a couple living in Sydney, often argued about financial decisions and daily habits. They realized that all conflicts stemmed from attachment to ego and the need to win. Learning about non-self and humility. Couples or friend groups in multicultural cities like Tokyo, Paris, or San Francisco have applied this principle to build stable relationships. They realize that letting go of the ego does not mean losing oneself, but expanding the heart, increasing empathy, and creating a safe space where everyone feels respected and loved. Another crucial aspect is the ability to recognize one's own emotions and those of others. By practicing non-self, people learn to observe emotions without reacting impulsively. They gradually realized that the conflict was not the main issue, but an opportunity to understand and respect each other more. Forgiveness became the glue that connected them, helping to build a stronger, more enduring friendship. Buddhism emphasizes that forgiveness is not about forgetting or condoning wrongdoing, but understanding the nature of suffering, impermanence, and non-self. When someone practices forgiveness, they release not only resentment toward others, but also attachment to ego, honor, and power. This is why humble people often possess extraordinary inner strength. They can maintain peace even in the face of hurt, failure, or betrayal. In international contexts, letting go and yielding not only helped him maintain inner peace, but also earned the respect of his colleagues, and the project achieved greater success than expected. Forgiveness and letting go also reduce stress, improve mental and physical health. Modern psychological research shows that people who practice forgiveness tend to have lower blood pressure, less tension, better sleep, and increased happiness. When combined with the spirit of non-self and humility, the ability to observe emotions without impulsive reactions is enhanced, creating a deep and lasting state of peace. In love, forgiveness is the glue for long-lasting relationships. A couple in Toronto who had experienced repeated misunderstandings and conflicts applied the method of letting go of ego and yielding. They did not need to prove who was right, but focused on listening, understanding, and adjusting their own behavior. As a result, their bond strengthened, their connection deepened, and it demonstrated that the power of humility is the foundation for enduring relationships. Thus, and in doing so, they discover extraordinary strength, inner peace, and the ability to build sincere, lasting relationships in every aspect of life. Part 7. Applications in work and society. In today's world, where competition and ambition are often prioritized, real-life examples from international workplaces show that humble leaders and employees who let go of the ego create effective, sustainable, and harmonious work environments. This section will immerse you in vivid experiences of how humility functions in professional and social contexts, from global corporations to small communities, where inner strength surpasses outward power. 7.1. Humility in the workplace, servant leadership. Leadership is not always about giving orders, asserting authority, or displaying status. In many large organizations worldwide, the servant leadership model has shown that humble leaders who prioritize the well-being of employees and the collective are the ones who create lasting organizational strength. Emma, a CEO at a tech company in San Francisco, consistently emphasizes the principle that leadership is about serving, not proving power. She spends time listening to all opinions, even from junior staff or those in the lowest positions. Through this humble approach, employees feel respected, more connected to shared goals, and creativity is strongly encouraged. Emma's inner strength does not come from power or title, but from her ability to let go of personal ego, allowing the team to shine. At an advertising agency in London, Alex, the creative director, once refused to take full credit for a successful campaign, instead praising the team and sharing the achievement with all employees. These organizations maintain stability and prestige for decades, proving the long-lasting strength of humility in the workplace. Humility is equally valuable at the employee level. When employees willingly share knowledge and support colleagues without seeking personal recognition, they foster a culture of learning, collaboration, and shared responsibility. Companies like Google, Microsoft, and Salesforce have observed that humble employees contribute the most sustained creativity and team cohesion. In a social context, humility helps reduce conflict, enhance negotiation, and foster connection. An international project manager based in Singapore once shared that by stepping back and listening to all members during multinational meetings, he resolved conflicts effectively rather than creating competition or resentment. The ego is temporarily set aside, collective interests take precedence, and projects achieve greater success. Thus, humility in the workplace is not only an ethical trait, but a smart strategy. It transforms authority into a serving power, creating an environment of creativity, cohesion, and sustainability. Whether as a leader or employee, anyone who can let go of the ego and put others first becomes a true source of strength for both the organization and society. 7.2. The power of teamwork when the ego is set aside. In modern workplaces, collective strength does not come solely from individual talents, but from the ability to set aside the ego and prioritize the common good over personal ambition. When each team member is willing to listen, share, and support colleagues without being driven by pride or self-interest, the group becomes more cohesive and flexible, solving problems quickly and effectively. A prime example comes from a design company in Berlin, where a project team had to deliver a global advertising campaign within a tight deadline. Instead of competing for ideas or personal recognition, members focused on the shared task, took responsibility interchangeably, and supported each other during challenges. The result was a campaign that exceeded creative expectations, thanks to smooth collaboration and strong team spirit. Similarly, in a technology startup in Toronto, a software engineering team faced a critical project setback. Rather than blaming one another, they analyzed the errors together, shared solutions, and learned from mistakes, putting aside individual egos to focus on the collective goal. Their humility and cooperative mindset not only ensured timely project completion, but also fostered a positive work environment where everyone felt their contribution was valued. In international organizations, lowering the ego helps overcome cultural and language barriers. When employees from different countries collaborate, volunteers from various cultures and skill sets had to coordinate urgently to save lives. Those who set aside their egos supported each other. Psychological research also shows that teams whose members display personal humility perform better, innovate more, and maintain stronger interpersonal relationships. When the ego is set aside, a renowned coach in England once shared that his team only achieved sustainable victories when players learned to prioritize teammates over personal glory. And learn from each other are the ones that endure, innovate, and overcome challenges with excellence. 7.3. Where creativity belongs to everyone, not any single person, and the final outcome becomes a shared achievement that transcends personal recognition. A prime example comes from a design company in New York, where a creative team was tasked with developing an international marketing campaign. During brainstorming sessions, ideas no longer belonged to any one individual, but became a synthesis of the entire group, resulting in a campaign that was multifaceted, powerful, and widely acclaimed. Similarly, at an animation studio in Los Angeles, artists and writers collaborated to create a rich story with diverse cultural and psychological elements. With the ego set aside, they were willing to accept feedback, incorporate others' ideas, and adjust their work for the greater good. The final product achieved high quality and international recognition. demonstrating the power of creativity guided by egolessness. In Silicon Valley tech organizations, egolessness enables continuous innovation in software development. When programmers do not cling to code ownership or personal credit, they can collaborate freely, refactor code, and experiment with new solutions without fear of losing recognition. This humility and collective spirit have driven numerous breakthrough technologies, from mobile apps to advanced AI platforms, where ideas belong to the team, not individuals. Egolessness also fosters creativity in education and research. In international laboratories across Europe, scientists from multiple countries work on biomedical projects. If everyone insisted on claiming ownership, projects would stall due to disputes and lack of cooperation. Conversely, when team members practice egolessness, share data, discuss solutions collaboratively, and learn from one another, scientific progress accelerates, producing breakthroughs that save or improve millions of lives. In the arts, egolessness removes the barriers of personal pride, allowing works to reach depth and resonance. A jazz ensemble in Paris performed an entirely improvised piece, where each musician placed the group above themselves, listening and adjusting to each other. With the ego absent, the music became vivid, rich, and emotionally moving, creating a transparent and productive creative environment. Thus, egolessness is not merely an abstract Buddhist principle. It is a key to unlocking collective creative potential. When the ego is lowered, ideas are no longer confined by personal boundaries, and the power of collective intelligence, collaboration, and selfless contribution drives extraordinary outcomes. Across all fields, business, technology, arts, and scientific research, individuals who practice egolessness, foregoing personal credit and prioritizing the collective, are the ones creating sustainable value and exceptional achievements without the need for individual recognition. 7.4. The Power of Humility in Success. Lessons from Steve Jobs, the Dalai Lama, and Desmond Tutu. When we think of remarkable success, many immediately picture ambition, power, and the drive to win. Yet, some individuals achieve extraordinary influence not only through talent, but also through humility, putting others before their ego and living a life of service. Steve Jobs, the Dalai Lama. Even with global spiritual influence, he consistently lives simply, seeing himself as a servant, a bridge between people and compassion. The Dalai Lama's humility not only makes him a moral role model for millions, but also spreads messages of peace, tolerance, and love across borders. By not letting ego cloud reason and emotion, and prioritizing the community over self-interest, his words and actions carry profound weight, profoundly impacting society. Desmond Tutu, Archbishop of South Africa and human rights activist, is another example of the strength of humility. In the fight against racial segregation, Tutu could have chosen aggression or the assertion of power, but instead, he chose humility and forgiveness. Tutu became not only a symbol of reconciliation in South Africa, but also a globally respected figure for ethics and character. Overall, humility in these great figures does not mean weakness or indecisiveness. It is the ability to recognize one's limitations, value and harness the strengths of others. And leadership effectiveness. By respecting others, listening to opinions, and prioritizing collective goals over personal interests, they foster work cultures where everyone feels valued, unlocking the full creative potential of the team. Through these examples, we see that humility is not a sign of weakness or fear, but a smart life and work strategy. By setting aside the ego, people do not lose power or ability. Instead, they open opportunities to connect, innovate, and achieve extraordinary accomplishments. This is a valuable lesson for anyone, in both professional and personal life, to apply humility as a true source of strength. The hidden power of humility is evident in how these individuals lead, make decisions, and create influence. Conclusion: living humble, living egoless. Introduction: looking back at all the stories, philosophies, and lessons we have explored, one crucial insight emerges. Living humbly and egolessly is not just an abstract concept in Buddhism, but a guiding principle for a truly peaceful and effective life. In this section, We will summarize the profound value of humility and egolessness, from spiritual and psychological perspectives to practical applications in personal life, work, and society. Summarizing the value of humility and egolessness. Humility and egolessness are two sides of the same truth, recognizing that the self is not the center of the universe, and that the achievements or power we possess are not absolute or solely ours. Humility is not about weakly yielding. It is the ability to acknowledge our limitations while respecting and valuing others. Egolessness, or anatta, is the deep understanding that the self we cling to is an illusion. And by letting go of attachment to the ego, we open ourselves to genuine understanding, compassion, and connection with those around us. Reflecting on the stories of the Buddha, from receiving a simple bowl of rice from Sujata to confronting Angulimala, and in relationships with disciples like Ananda, Sariputta, or Mahakassapa, we see that humility and egolessness are the foundation that allows the Buddha and his disciples to live a life of peace, free from pride, anger, or greed. Actions that seem simple, such as yielding the floor to others, listening deeply, or not seeking credit, are the clearest evidence of the hidden power of humility. In personal life, practicing egolessness helps reduce pride. Living by this spirit allows one not only to achieve personal peace, but also to contribute to building a strong, compassionate, and enduring community. In conclusion, the value of humility and egolessness transcends theoretical concepts. It is the art of living, a path to wisdom, happiness, and harmony. Anyone who applies this spirit in personal life, family, work, and attachment to the ego acts like an invisible pole. It appears in every relationship, within the family, at work, and even in moments when we think we have completely let go. When achieving a success, receiving praise, or seeing others recognize us, the ego immediately wants to rise, asserting power, status, or personal value. Even those who practice meditation or spiritual training for many years sometimes find themselves lost, angry when disrespected, envious when others excel, or wanting to stand out in a group. These situations are far from rare, and recognizing the ego's return is the first step to managing it. Imagine a highly skilled employee continuously taking responsibilities and achieving results. Yet every time a colleague is praised or recognized by leaders, self-importance emerges and competitiveness rises. Or within a family, a parent or child, even understanding the value of humility, may still easily get angry, feel insulted, or defend their ego through words and actions. This reality shows that non-self and humility are not fixed states. A key approach is cultivating mindfulness, always observing oneself when emotions arise, when comparison or the desire to dominate surfaces. Meditation, self-inquiry, and noting moments when the ego appears help us recognize it early and not be swept away. Additionally, prioritizing collective benefit over individual gain, sharing credit, respecting others' achievements, and remembering the impermanence of all things help naturally diminish the ego. Another major challenge is the familiarity with the ego. We have lived with the self since birth, forming habits based on it to survive, to be loved, and to gain recognition. Letting go of the ego, even partially, requires confronting emptiness, anxiety, and a sense of loss. This is why many understand the theory but struggle to practice it, and why it's easy to slip back into prideful or arrogant behaviors. However, acknowledging mistakes and respecting everyone equally. Over time, the ego's challenge diminishes, never fully disappearing, but we learn to live with it without being dominated by it. Continuous practice also develops compassion and wisdom. When freed from comparisons and competitiveness, we see more clearly the needs and suffering of others, acting appropriately and effectively. The ego becomes a tool rather than an obstacle, and happiness and peace gradually become a natural state. Ultimately, the greatest challenge in living humbly and embracing non-self is recognizing that the ego never fully disappears. It only temporarily subsides when we are mindful. It is a continuous practice in daily life. Mindfulness meditation serves as a powerful tool to help us become aware of each moment, observing our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors without judgment. When we sit and focus on our breath, each inhalation and exhalation, emotions that arise, instinctive reactions, or thoughts about the self become clearer. This is the first step in recognizing that the self is not a fixed entity, but a collection of mental and emotional phenomena, impermanent and observable. During meditation, when thoughts about I, mine, or right and wrong emerge, practitioners learn to let them go without clinging. Contemplating non-self does not mean erasing the self or becoming soulless, but deeply understanding that the self is temporary and attachment to it is often the root of suffering. Through this awareness, we gradually reduce pride, jealousy, and selfish behaviors, replacing them with calmness, reflection, and genuine understanding of others. Daily practice extends beyond formal meditation into all moments of life, interactions with family, colleagues, or even strangers. Mindfulness allows us to recognize negative reactions that stem from the ego, and then choose responses not based on pride or self-interest. When anger arises in the family, this awareness becomes a natural habit, making every action pure, free from ego attachment. Daily practice also includes observing ourselves in social relationships, family, friends, community, and workplace. Each time we face conflict, disagreement, success, or failure, we have an opportunity to look deeply at our ego, recognize attachments, and practice letting go. This cultivates humility, which is no longer an abstract theory, but becomes an integral part of how we live, act, and perceive the world. Keeping a mindfulness journal is another helpful method. Writing down thoughts, emotions, moments when the ego appears, and how we handle them creates cognitive distance, making it easier to observe without being absorbed. Regularly reviewing the journal also helps us see inner growth, noticing reduced negative habits and moments when we act from a place of non-self. Most importantly, daily practice of mindfulness and contemplating non-self is not about achieving perfection, but understanding that working on the ego is an ongoing, continuous process. Every day, every action, every breath is an opportunity to practice, to learn to let go, and to understand ourselves and others more deeply. With consistent application, meditation and non-self contemplation form a solid foundation, allowing us to live humbly, freely, and harmoniously with others, unbound by illusions of the ego. Daily practice also nurtures gratitude and empathy. When we realize that all things, all people, and all circumstances are impermanent, without a fixed self, we naturally feel appreciation for the present moment and genuine concern for others. Relationships deepen, work becomes more effective, and life feels lighter, less stressful, yet full of meaning. Ultimately, mindfulness meditation and contemplation of non-self are not tools to escape reality, but ways to face life with serenity, clarity, and completeness. With consistent practice, every action, word, and thought becomes a living testament to humility and non-self, transforming lofty philosophy into practical life experience, fostering inner growth, peace with oneself. When the ego no longer dominates, ideas flow freely, relationships strengthen, and the whole team achieves greater results without anyone needing to win. In everyday social interactions, realize that one day without putting the ego first is not a one-time goal, but the beginning of a long journey. With persistent practice, small steps create significant change. You become calmer, better at listening, sharing, and loving unconditionally. These experiences reveal that humility and non-self are not losses, but hidden strengths that open the door to true happiness, inner freedom, and deep connection with the world around you. Try it today, a day where you observe, act, and speak without being driven by the ego. Record your experiences. Part 6. Applying non-self in personal life. In daily life, we are often caught up in arguments, misunderstandings, and ego. These conflicts not only create tension in relationships, but also harm the mind and spirit. Understanding the nature of non-self allows us to see that hurt does not strike the true self, because the true self does not exist independently. This reduces ego-driven reactions, and in turn, her team dynamics improved significantly. In Asia, another story tells of Hiroshi, a high school teacher in Tokyo. He had been deeply hurt when students criticized his teaching methods. Instead of reacting out of ego, Hiroshi applied the principle of non-self, seeing the feedback not as a personal attack, but as objective information. This allowed him to learn and improve without feeling offended, maintaining respectful relationships with his students. In family relationships, non-self also plays a crucial role. When conflicts arise, defending the self often damages long-term emotional bonds. But recognizing that everyone operates according to their own beliefs and experiences reduces attachment to ego. Parents applying non-self in raising children respond